All right, now that we have that round function working, the next step we're going to get into is go back to running the mortgage calculation. So I kind of like the idea of only running the tests that we want to work on. So instead of running round now, I'm going to actually run mort. Okay. Now the way this works is it just does a search and searches for a test that has this string in it. Okay. So let's just remember where we were again. What our problem was before we got redirected to run the round function is this to-be didn't work. And that to-be didn't work because, oh, look at that. The number had been rounded too big. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually take this monthly number and we're actually going to call the round function on that number. So now we're going to do is that dot round and pass monthly to it. All right, let's just have a look at that and make sure that's clear. All right, we're going to save that. We're going to run it. And we should get one step further. Maybe we get one step further as long as we didn't do any errors. Okay, interesting. Look at this. So we did get past that. And the next one it's giving an error on is saying, hey, I expected that to be 1054, but it's not. It's $1,005. And the reason is we've hard coded that. So now we got to calculate what the total number is. So of course, we're not going to spend much time on figuring out how to do that. I'm just going to grab the total. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to calculate that to that. And then instead of hard coding this number, I'm going to pass total. All right, that should work. All right, let's have a look now. It's still giving me an error in the same spot. Oh my goodness, look at this, same problem. So now we actually have to call the round function on that as well. So now, instead of doing that, I'm going to call mortgage functions.round. And again, notice when I'm using that name, it is the name within this context. And that's important to understand. It's the name within this context. So let's save that, go through it. And again, I want you to really notice how I'm doing one line test, or as close as I can get to one line test, one line test, one line test. Okay. Let's see what the error is now. Okay, and now we've moved down to the next line. So now the interest isn't correct because we've hard-coded the interest, I believe. Yes, look at that, 542, and it's saying 542 is not equal to that. So let's calculate the interest. Okay, let's put that in there. Okay, that's great. And then total interest. And again, there we go. I always get it to help me out. Run it. And as you can probably guess by now, you'll know what's wrong. It'll also give us an error, in which case we'll call the round function. Again, I would never call it unless I absolutely had to. Oh, look how close that is to going to 3. Oh my goodness. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to call the round function again. Call total interest. Voila. All right, and let's run it again. And again, you notice what we're doing is we're just running that one test and we're skipping the other tests because we don't need to run them. All right, and it has now passed. Look at that. We have now passed that. Oh, oh yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. That was the last run. All right, and then what I'd like to do is make sure that we can run it for the next set of numbers. Okay, and if we go to the chart that the user gave me, again, in theory, these are the next set of numbers. So we'll just go back to the, oops, I'm going to just go back to, yeah, this table right here. And so what I want to do now is I want to give it these numbers, okay, 1,000, 10, 10. Because again, if I use the same year all the time, I can't really tell whether it's working or not. So these are the numbers I expect. You just have to trust me that I actually did do that. Okay, there it is right there. Okay, and I can see this isn't being formatted very well, so I'm going to actually format it because it drives me nuts. Format the document. And you notice it puts a space after the commas. It just makes it way easier to read. I'm going to save it. I'm going to run it. And again, is this going to work or not? Probably. All right, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run all my tests to make sure all my tests work. npm test. I'm going to run all 3 tests. Again, there's some silly tests in here, but I want you to get the idea. Okay, so all 3 tests passed. All right, so where we are now is we have a piece of code that's been written that we have a lot of confidence in is correct, okay? So the next thing we're going to do now is hook that up to the front end. Well, we haven't written a front end, but we're going to hook it up to a front end, okay? So let's just stop and make sure there's no questions so far.